Men of Lithin, Volume 1. It is the third millennium since the flame was stolen. Since records began, there has never been an age as enlightened in reason as this. Even on moonless nights, the countless towering monoliths of the metropolis are illuminated by innumerable lights. The metal pipes that connect the streets and districts shine with a resplendent glow, the golden liquid flowing within the imbuing city with vital energy. That aureate fluid is Lithin, the lifeblood of human civilization. Since the technocracy first discovered it 100 years ago, it has been the source of countless innovations, leading humanity into a new era. Automated tilling machines revolutionized farming, more than sextupling agricultural yields, while airborne shuttles soared into the sky, connecting once isolated cities dotting the continent. The people of today can no longer imagine a world without Lithin. This applies doubly so for the rulers of the now interconnected cities. Lithin was first discovered in the ruins of the ancient settlement known as Natlan, a city located deep within the earth, thus allowing for the mining of the substance whose roots lie deeper still. As there was no way to drill so deep from the surface, Lithin production was concentrated in the hands of those who controlled the Natlan ruins, the Technocratic Assembly. As demand for the Lithin grew, conflicts arose between the cities over its supply and distribution. As disputes became ever more common and increasingly bitter, the specter of war grew ever darker, enveloping the land. Though, at least for today, the residents of the metropolis have temporarily forgotten the shadow that hangs over them, as they crowd the streets and plazas for the Continental Fair being held in their city. This grand event, organized by the Technocratic Assembly, is a celebration of peace and progress, showcasing the latest innovations and fruits of technological innovation. Even though these inventions will likely soon contribute to the growing arms race between the disparate cities, they still serve as a temporary comfort to an anxious populace. That is, except for you. You feel no interest in the novel playthings on show or the crowds who gather and gawk at them. The hustle and bustle of the fair only heightens the unease you feel at the decision to meet here. A few weeks ago, a group of insurrectionists destroyed the Lithin transfer hub in Saf before broadcasting a pre-recorded projection, repeating the same old cliches that Lithin is a demonic gift and that the technocracy are destroying the world. Apart from titling themselves as heralds of the unenlightened, there was nothing to differentiate them from any other malcontents. However, the ruler of Sot declared that the insurrectionists had acted at the instigation of top figures within the metropolis in hopes of provoking war between the two cities, even going so far as to provide evidence showing that each one was a metropolis citizen. In order to clear their name and defuse the situation, the Metropolitan authorities requested that the Technocratic Assembly's intervention, and it is to this end that you are here pursuing an investigation. My apologies, Mr. Detective, to have kept you waiting. This exhibition really is wonderful. It's been hard to tear myself away. Just as you were pondering the connection between these events, a short, rotund gentleman hails you from behind. It would appear that this is Akara, the agent that the Technocratic Assembly has sent you in aid of your investigation. You can dispense with the formalities, Akara. Let's start with what we each know. Volume 2. If you hadn't seen it with your own eyes, you would have never believed that this prosperous metropolis yet harbored the remains of such a benighted age. After days of investigation, you and Akara finally locate the insurrectionists known as the Unenlightened, hiding out in a decrepit church in the shadow of a hulking bridge. Their location leaves you more convinced than ever that this is merely a band of Luddites left behind in the wake of progress, not some insidious tool of a more sinister political plot. Regardless, you need evidence to present before the Technocratic Assembly, and so you and Akara decide to wait for the insurrectionists to leave their base, on one of their seemingly endless missions to transport some unknown cargo, before sneaking inside to gather the proof you need. You stake out their hideout for a full 3 weeks before you finally seize your chance. By now, you are sure that there are 12 of them coming and going from the church, and on this particular morning, they have all left together on their transport. Based on your observations, they are likely to return before dusk. Akara stands sentry by the door as you enter the church alone. The long and winding corridor is filled with a sickly scent, reminiscent of formaldehyde. You grope about in the dark until you finally find the exit. Perhaps because it is lit by archaic oil lamps, the inside of the church appears much larger than expected. In the dim light, you can just about make out stacks of strange metal vats along the walls. It must be these that the group has been transporting away. You approach the vats carefully, noticing that each one has a label stuck to it, all of them displaying the single word, ignorance. Perhaps this has something to do with some ancient religion, you think to yourself. Just as you're preparing to pick up one of the vats and take it with you to investigate, a pair of cold hands clamp down on your shoulders. Darn it! You and Akara had diligently staked out the church for 3 weeks, and only 12 people had entered or exit in all of the time you were watching. Either this one had never left, or there was another exit you didn't know about. In your panic, you kick open one of the metal vats. The stench of formaldehyde, the very same you detected while entering, is overpowering. The pungent smell helps clear your head a little, and you finally see clearly the man who has accosted you from behind. His face could charitably be described as human, but where his eyes should be, there were only 2 empty sockets set amidst twisted features. "Did you see it? Did you see it?" he screams, thrusting out his thick arms and grasping at the air around him. He is clearly blind. Perhaps this is the reason you haven't seen him venture outside. Once you realize he can't see you, you quickly move back to the entrance of the room and stumble out through the dark corridor outside. "Hey, detective, what's going on? Hey, careful, what are you running for?" Through your fear and confusion, you hear your companion's voice, followed by a flurry of hurried footsteps as he quickly rushes over to your side. Your mission had not gone smoothly, yet you still have something to show for it. At the very least, you managed to take one of those strange little vats with you as you fled. With this realization in mind, you clamber to your feet. You look up to find a monstrosity gazing back at you, an apparition somewhere between a skeleton and a machine. Its face is sunken, a pair of lifeless hollow eyes boring into you, and then a cold voice. You saw it, didn't you, unenlightened one? Volume 3. A colossal head and slender limbs, connected by countless threads to a seemingly reptilian body. What you are looking at is a human. It is the last specimen of its kind in the world. The monstrosity in front of you is gesturing to another creature, floating in a nearby cultivation tank. Even though you had become accustomed to your companion's visage, you do your best to look away. The sight of its eyes still sends shivers down your spine. If this is a human, then what are we? You ask the creature that, until recently, you had known as Akara. Now that you think about it, it seems obvious that this would merely be a codename used in the technocratic assembly. By means of some unfathomable technology, the church is connected to Natlantia. Perhaps every city has just such a place, somewhere to connect them in the dark. You? If you mean those that dwell on the surface, pugs, beagles, little gray men, we have had many names for them through the ages. But whatever you choose to call them, they are creatures we designed. Their biological functions are in perfect contrast to our own. The environment in which we thrive is deathly toxic to them, and vice versa. It is precisely because of this that the degradation they cause is vital to recreating a world suited to our existence. If things are really as this creature claims, the entire history of our civilization is the result of their planning, and the countless technological marvels and inventions that we now enjoy were bestowed on us by them. They have always been right here beside us, and yet we never saw them. In their words, this is because of a gland in our brains that secretes a gaseous substance called the fog of reason, preventing us from perceiving the world as it truly is. The only reason I can perceive this creature's hideous form right now is that I inhaled the gas known as ignorance, a substance that I myself had created in my previous incarnation. I still have one more question. After giving us Lithin, how can you guarantee that we'll destroy each other in a great war once it runs out? Lithin, the miraculous energy source discovered among the Natlantian ruins, is an energy-based form of these creatures. After their civilization had descended into a large-scale war that covered the planet in a hazardous substance, the surviving humans decided to transfer their essence into pure energy and store themselves in a biovault deep underground. Following this, they designed a brand new species, one that could survive on the polluted planet they had created. They hoped that this new species would aid in the biodegradation of the harmful substance until the surface was habitable again and they could begin anew. Yet, that new world would have no place for their creations. Once the surface dwellers discovered Lithin and used it to advance their civilization, the ancient beings from beneath the earth would start to reemerge. And so they would wait for the day when surface civilization destroyed itself, in a catastrophe that will give them a new life. Perhaps you have heard of psychohistory, or Probably not. It hardly matters. The point is, besides designing biological functions, the design of a species' history is also a simple matter of technology. The incessantly questing heart, the barely controllable greed, the drive for victory, it all leads them to the same inevitable conclusion. The unenlightened deny it, but that is only because your senseless morals have yet to be overcome by evolution. At long last, you arrive at the final room in the deepest depths of the Bio-Vault, where the last memories of countless generations of the unenlightened are stored. When the survivors in this ancient city decide to transfer their life force into Lithin, there were those among them, though a minority, who resisted. They refused to abandon their individuality and merge into a boundless singular wisdom. Because of this, they were labeled the unenlightened. The majority were unable to deny them their rights, simply preserving them for this final room, allowing them to live out incarnation after incarnation among the life forms on the surface. Those who considered themselves enlightened believed that one day their brethren would choose to join them and return to the embrace of the whole. Indeed, you are the leader of the unenlightened. You have witnessed the countless memories of sages who established the codes of law, of poets who extolled the graces of virtue, and of warriors who fought against the oppression of tyrants. At the start of each memory, you see a huge figure cast its shadow over those who were exiled from the ancient city. The figure seems to speak, but you can no longer recall the words. All you remember is that you yearn for him. Perhaps every generation of the enlightened eventually returns here to give their answer. In that case, what will your answer be?